The Second Franco-Dahomean War, which raged from 1892 to 1894, was a major conflict between the French Third Republic, led by General Alfred-Amédée Dodds, and the Kingdom of Dahomey under King Béhanzin. The French emerged triumphant and incorporated Dahomey into the growing colonial territory of French West Africa. Background: in 1890, the Fon Kingdom of Dahomey and the French Third Republic had gone to war in what was remembered as the First Franco-Dahomean War over the former's rights to certain territories, specifically those in the Dahomey Valley. The Fon ceased hostilities with the French after 2 military defeats, withdrawing the forces and signing a treaty conceding to all of France's demands. However, Dahomey remained a potent force in the area and quickly rearmed with modern weapons in anticipation of a second, decisive conflict. Casus belli. After rearming and regrouping, the Fon returned to raiding the Dahomey Valley, the same valley fought over in the First War with France. Victor Ballet, the French resident at Porto Novo, was sent via gunboat upriver to investigate. His ship was attacked and forced to depart with 5 men wounded in the incident. King Béhanzin rejected complaints by the French, and war was declared immediately by the French. Military build-up. The French entrusted the war effort against Dahomey to Alfred-Amédée Dodds, an octoroon colonel of the troops de marine from Senegal. Colonel Dodds arrived with a force of 2,164 men including foreign legionnaires, marines, engineers, artillery and Senegalese cavalry known as Spahis, plus the trusted tirailleurs. These forces were armed with the new Lebel rifles, which would prove decisive in the coming battle. The French Protectorate Kingdom of Porto Novo also added some 2,600 porters to aid in the fight. The Fon, prior to the outbreak of the Second War, had stockpiled between 4,000 and 6,000 rifles including Mannlicher and Winchester carbines. These were purchased from German merchants via the port of Whydah. King Béhanzin also bought some machine guns and crop cannons, but it is unknown that these were ever put to use. Beginning of hostilities. On June 15, 1892, the French blockaded Dahomey's coast to prevent any further arms sales. Then, on July 4, the first shots of the war were fired from French gunboats with the shelling of several villages along the lower Dahomey Valley. The carefully organized French army began moving inland in mid-August toward the final destination of the Dahomey capital of Dahomey. Battle of Dogba. The French invasion force assembled at the village of Dogba on September 14, some 50 miles upriver on the border of Dahomey and Porto Novo. At around 5 a.m. on September 19, the French force was attacked by the army of Dahomey. The Fon broke off the attack after 3 to 4 hours of relentless fighting, characterized by repeated attempts by the Fon for melee combat. Hundreds of Fon were left dead on the field, with the French force suffering only 5 dead. Battle of Poguessa. The French forces moved another 15 miles upriver before turning west in the direction of Dahomey. On October 4, the French column was attacked at Poguessa by Fon forces under the command of King Béhanzin himself. The Fon staged several fierce charges over 2 to 3 hours that all failed against the 20-inch bayonets of the French. The Dahomey army left the field in defeat, losing some 200 soldiers. The French carried the day with only 42 casualties. The Dahomey Amazons were also conspicuous in the battle. Trek Dahomey. After the hard-fought victory at Poguessa, the Fon resorted to guerrilla tactics rather than set-piece engagements. It took the French invasion force a month to march the 25 miles between Poguessa and the last major battle at Cana just outside Dahomey. The Fon dug foxholes and trenches in the desperate battle to slow the French invasion. Battle of Adagon. On October 6, the French had another major encounter with the Fon at the village of Adagon. The Fon, again, fared badly, losing 86 Dahomey regulars and 417 Dahomey Amazons. The French suffered 6 dead and another 32 wounded before the fighting was ended. The French made use of a bayonet charge, which inflicted the lion's share of Dahomey's casualties. The battle was a turning point in the mind of Dahomey. The royal court decided that there would be no victory for Dahomey. The battle was also significant in that much of Dahomey's Amazon corps was lost in the engagement. Siege at Kpa. The French column was able to cross another 15 miles toward Dahomey after Adagon, bivouacking at the village of Kpa. For the moment they arrived, they were attacked daily. For the French arrival until October 14, Dahomey's Amazons were conspicuously absent from the fighting. Then, on the 15th, they reappear in nearly every later engagement, inflicting significant losses especially against officers. Once resupplied, the French left Kpa on October 26 toward the village of Kotopa. End of Dahomey. From October 26 to 27, the French fought through the Dahomey forces at Kotopa and elsewhere, crossing lines of enemy trench. Bayonet charges were the deciding factor in nearly all engagements. The Fon penchant for hand-to-hand fighting left them at a disadvantage against French bayonets, which easily outreached Dahomey's swords and machetes. The Amazons are reported by the French to have fought the hardest, charging out of the trenches but to no avail. Battle of Canna. From November 2 until November 4, the French and Fon armies fought on the outskirts of Canna. By this time, Béhanzin's army numbered no more than 1,500, including slaves and pardoned convicts. On November 3, the king directed the attack on the French bivouac. Amazons seem to have made up much of the force. After 4 hours of desperate combat, the Fon army withdrew. The fighting continued until the 4th. The last engagement at Canna, which took place at the village of Diokoue, site of a royal palace, was the last time Amazons would be used. Special units of the Amazons were assigned specifically to target French officers. After a full day of fighting, the French overran the Dahomey army with another bayonet charge. End of the war. On November 5, Dahomey sent a truce mission to the French, and the next day saw the French enter Canna. The peace mission failed, however, and on the 16th of November, the French army marched on Dahomey. King Béhanzin, refusing to let the capital fall into enemy hands, burned and evacuated the city. He and the remnants of the Dahomey army fled north as the French entered the capital on November 17. The French tricolour was hoisted over the Singboji Palace, which survived the fire and remains in modern Benin to this day. The king of Dahomey fled to Acherabe, 30 miles north of the capital. Attempts were initiated to rebuild the army and its Amazon corps until the French chose Béhanzin's brother Guchili as the new king. King Béhanzin surrendered to the French on January 15, 1894 and was exiled to Martinique. The war had officially ended.